Welcome once again to another For Your Consideration. By far the single most popular thing on my podcast feed. By far. Right. So, let me see. I'm Michael, host of the Tin Dog Podcast. Or in fact, no, scrub that. I'm Michael, and my friend and co-host on this episode, on every episode of this, because that's what we do, is Luke. Say hello, Luke.
Good evening. Or good morning.
I honestly thought you were going to say hello, Luke. Sorry.
Well, yes. I was going to say good evening.
It's an obvious gag, yeah. That's true. It is. It is evening.
Call me an ambulance. You're an ambulance.
You're an ambulance, yes.
I said good evening, but given that we release these at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, people might be listening to this in the morning. I'm
not sure they do.
I probably don't listen to it straight away.
You can't download it before work and listen to it on the way to work. Most people, I suppose people do use the Wi-Fi at work to download stuff on the way home. So, good evening, welcome to your journey home. There you are. That's just where we've got all the bases covered.
Wherever and whenever you're listening, welcome to For Your Consideration. It's our 10th episode, and it's your choice this month, Michael. What are we talking about? It
certainly is. We are talking about Howl's Moving Castle, the movie. Because I just really wanted to. I did really want to, and because it's a beloved movie of mine, and I wanted to share it. And more importantly, I had a list, if we remember back to last month, and I wanted to choose a film you'd not seen. So we started with Spirited Away, which you had seen. I was suggesting Nausicaa, which made sense because it was the first Studio Ghibli, we can discuss how you actually say it later on, movie, which wasn't really by them, but it was by them, and so on. And then my daughter suggested do Howl's Moving Castle. And I went, you know what, you're right, let's do that. So that's why we're doing that specific one. But I suppose I need to talk about how I came across this film, because that's kind of what we do.
Yes.
Right. First off, you've watched it.
I was going to say, I have watched it, yes. And from the limited research I've done, it's based on a 1986 novel by Diane Wynne Jones, who's an English author.
Welsh.
Oh, no, was she Welsh? Welsh author. British Welsh author. And then this was adapted into a film by Studio Ghibli in 2004? 2003?
2004, yeah.
2004. So 20 years old this year.
September the 5th, 2004, first screening in Venice, and released in Japan on the 20th of November.
Okay, well, and we are recording this in mid-September 2024. Yeah. So tell me, were you familiar with the book, or
nope?
So this is it's purely the film.
Yeah, I mean, I have bought the book, and I've got it on my Kindle, and I did intend reading it. However, while I was away on holiday, I discovered Ben Aranovic's Rivers of London books, and I read the first one while I was in Florida, and absolutely loved it on a level that I've not experienced for years.
Oh,
so much
wow.
so that I went, right, I've just got to read the second one straight away. So I'm currently reading the second one now.
You were in for a massive treat.
Yeah.
The latest one's just come out, and I haven't bought it yet, but I have bought and read, or had given as presents, all of the other ones, and I am mostly up to date on the graphic novels as well. I had considered Rivers of London as something to introduce to you on this podcast, but you found it yourself. So
feel free. I will talk about it if you want. That's not a problem.
Well, there's the thing is that there are massive spoilers for future stuff. So the less you know about what happens, particularly in books 4 and onwards, the better, really, because there's some big story arcs that develop, and you're in for a treat if you can go through it unspoiled, because you will be.
Oh no, trust me, I can't. I'm not in any. I'm not in a book group. I haven't been in one for. That's another story for another time. But
that's the reason you haven't read Howl's Moving Castle.
That's the reason I haven't. So what happened was I was familiar with Spirited Away.
Right.
No, I'd heard of Spirited Away, but I'd not seen it.
Okay.
I had on Magic double DVD set. What was it? Princess Mononoke. I had that. Now, I had bought it originally, I think because I'd heard there was a lot of promotion for it when it came out to buy in this country, and it was about that. It was that wave. Everyone had done the Akiras, and there was a sort of suggestion of that. Though these things weren't as accessible as then. I'd had a very good experience with Akira and a few other things, but then we'd had a very bad experience at university, which I'll tell you about in a minute, with Japanese animation. Obviously, there was the kids' TV stuff, the Battle of the Planets, and all that I'd had experience of, and I was aware of it. But skip to years later, Verity's very small.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Tesco's. Now, our Tesco's has a charity section where people leave books,
right,
like a library, and they leave DVDs and things like that. And I picked up this pale blue box set, and I turned it over and I went, this is all of them. Right? And I was like, this is like, donate a couple of quid to charity and I'm going to get like 14 movies.
Wow.
This is a bargain. I'll have that. So I did that. And then we went home and I went on the internet and I looked at which one should we start with. And I thought, well, Verity's really small. So, but at this point, so we tried Totoro, and it was something me and her just absolutely loved. And then over the years, we've just worked our way through them all. Okay. And the last one that we'd never got around to watching was Nausicaa. And we found that it was on Netflix, and my wife was out for the night and we went, let's just watch Nausicaa. So we just had a movie night and we watched that. So these movies are something that me and her have in common because of that that random find in Tesco's bargain bin. And it wasn't even an official, well, it was an official box set, but weirdly, because I sent you the disc from that set, it's the South Korean not limited edition, it's the South Korean collected works, which is how come the menus are all wrong. And not wrong, they're just not in English. And you have to select English as an option.
It said, did you want to listen to it in Japanese?
Oh, nice.
So it's got English writing, but it's kind of spelt wrong.
Yeah, so that's the box set that I got as a bargain. Luckily, I you know me. Well, it's you. We do. Oh, have I bought a Blu-ray player? Yes. Oh, look, I've pressed a few buttons and it's multi-region all of a sudden. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. We've gone, I will buy this DVD player as long as it can play discs from everywhere in the world if I press a certain combination of things, which is what used to have to happen.
I mean, I remember buying my first DVD player from Richer Sounds, and the DVD players were advertised as being Region 2 or multi-region, and it was I think you literally paid them an extra 10 quid, I think it was. Yeah. And it was the same DVD player, but just with the cheat code for making it multi-region.
And that was it.
That was what
that's what this was. So that was the disc I sent you. I took it out of the selection of the big box set, posted that to you because I've been watching it on Netflix, because they're all on Netflix. So if you're inspired by this and you've not come across them before, go away and do this. Most people would start off with Spirited Away if you're doing this, and a lot of people would just adore Totoro, which is a great place to start. But let's face it, there isn't a duff one in there. Avoid Valley of the Fireflies, because most people will watch it once, think it's the world's most moving movie, and never watch it again because it's just soul destroying. Okay. You've really got to be in a good place mentally to get through Valley of the Fireflies, but that's not what we're talking about here. So that's how I came across this. I came across it late to the party. Like I said, my first experience of proper manga and anime movies was Akira, because that's what we did. I remember being at our drama school, and somebody had a copy of it, and we had an edit suite. So obviously we completely misused the edit suite by copying VHS to VHS at high speed because we could, because the edit suite avoided copyright protection stuff. So we managed to do that. So we all had a copy of Akira and we all loved it. And I've even got somewhere on a shelf over there the Spawn.com still sealed in its plastic case motorbike, the red one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and when I'm skint next, I will be putting it on eBay, but that's not important. So we're here to talk about something you'd not seen before, based on a book. And when we were at Hooverville, we had a chat, or even before, you said one of the reviews was somebody hated it because it deviated from the book and the book was beloved, which inspired me to go and find out the differences between the two. Which, well, like I said, I would have done that if it hadn't been for Rivers of London.
I read a synopsis of the... Well, we'll get to this further on. But I read a synopsis of the film after the fact, because there were bits I was like, I'm just going to read a synopsis just to make sure I did follow that plot correctly.
Well, there is that. That's something we definitely need to do.
We'll talk about that. And then I thought, well, I'm going to read a synopsis of the book to see what the differences are. And there's a lot about the basic world building that seemed to be the same, but a lot that was dissimilar. It's something that I'd potentially be intrigued to read, but it's not going to immediately go to the top of my list, given all the target books I've got to read.
Yeah, that's true.
So why? What is it about Studio Ghibli and this film in particular that you wanted to bring to the table?
I loved last time's conversation about Aardman, and I wanted to bring some animation. Now, there is on my to-do list or potential stuff to bring to this table, there are some Disney films, and there are some Disney films that a lot of people might not come across. But let's face it, we're animators. We've probably seen most of the Disney films, but everywhere in the world's got their own animation going on. I mean, let's face it, you'll know about the mid-European stuff, the Czech stuff, the French stuff as well. It's all out there and it's all a legitimate art form. But I love Japanese culture on a massive level. I dream of visiting Tokyo and also, the big parks. I do want to visit the theme parks. I want to visit, weirdly, Disney in Tokyo, and I want to visit Godzilla Land. But there's also a theme park, and you can visit the Studio Ghibli theme park, which has got Kiki's Delivery Service there, and they've got a moving castle. They've got, which doesn't move, but they've got Valley of the Witches as well, which you can visit as well. There's not rides as such, but it's just reconstructions of stuff from these movies, and I really suggest you go and have a look at those on YouTube, because oh my god, they look great. And I would just be standing there going, take my money, I want all of the merchandise. So I've just got a very soft spot for this film, and I just wanted to bring it so we could have a chat, because I don't get to talk about these things. I get to enjoy them and go, that was really good. Right. Now, my wife's got a slight emotional hole when it comes to animation. What it does is it instantly puts her to sleep.
Okay.
And it's just been an ongoing thing. It's like she really has to be kind of awake and focused to not just fall asleep in animation. I don't know what it is. It's just how things have been. And that's not an issue. It's not the end of the world. It's just true.
Yeah.
So this is something that me and V have got that we just do. And we've just seen when we were going through Netflix there, it was like, oh, there's one we've not seen, and that's it. And Another Boy in the Crane is coming out sometime in next month.
Okay.
Which just won Oscars, isn't it? But also, and here's the thing, the design of the actual castle that moves is very similar to the Baba Yaga myths, which I'm very fond of, especially from the Sandman. And of course, one of the greatest kids' books ever written, The House with Chicken Legs, which deserves so much to be made into a Studio Ghibli film. Oh my god, if you've not read it, you've got to go out and get it. It's brilliant.
I mean, I lived in Russia, so I'm aware of the Baba Yaga and the chicken leg. I literally lived around the corner from the chicken leg buildings in St. Petersburg.
I don't know those.
Well, they're not as exciting as they sound, but they're blocks of flats.
Yeah.
Where the base of the blocks of flats are not as you'd expect. They're kind of like legs. So the first floor of houses is probably like 2 or 3 stories up, and there's a lift somewhere in one of the legs to kind of get you up. But they're they're brutalist Soviet architecture, so they're not at all what you'd expect. They're not actually chicken legs.
You'd almost expect them to be Art Nouveau or something.
They're more sort of like concrete.
Yeah,
I'm trying to mime something to you, but anyway.
No, it's fine. I get it.
I can find a picture of it, but yeah. So I hadn't made that connection But now you say that, it feels very much of a piece, particularly with the whole witchcraft thing.
Yeah.
And the Witch of the Waste.
Yeah.
Feels very Baba Yaga kind of style.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, when I've been watching it again in order to deconstruct it, it wasn't as much fun as I remembered it being. Like, I had to rewatch the ending to go, right, it looked brilliant and it felt like a proper ending. But when you're not just letting it wash over you, you start going, right, okay, so let's take this apart narrative-wise. Who was the villain? Right, okay, so it's a woman in a room. What? But she's... And who... But that... The Wurzel Gummidge, the scarecrow person, the turnip head, he's a bit of a MacGuffin, and then where does the kid come from? And the minute you start asking yourself more questions, the magic begins to wear off just a bit, and then you go, no, I don't want the magic to wear off, so you stop asking yourself the questions, and because you're like, but it's just fabulous, it's gorgeous, and you're like, I don't want to look at the flaws.
Well, this was the thing. In sort of preparing to talk about this, I was like, I wanted to kind of come straight in and go, well, what did we like about it? Because you just highlighted a bunch of issues that I had with it too,
right?
Which we can get to. But I think I would want to start by going, well, what actually really works about the film? And I think the style is great. The world building, the visual world building.
Absolutely
is great.
Yeah. That was another reason we watched it so early on. It was like we came for the steampunk, we stayed for the witches.
Exactly, and it's really weird though, because you're like, well, this is a British novel, a Welsh novel, if we want to kind of go down that road.
No, it's British. Yeah.
The names are very British. Kingsbury, Port Haven. She's called Sophie.
Yeah,
Sophie Hatter in the book. Apparently, I don't know whether they ever call her by her surname in the film. And apparently, it's inspired by a kid who said to her, "Write a story about a castle that walks."
Yeah,
like that's the inspiration of the So it feels very British from that point of view, but then visually, obviously, the characters are all very anime style.
Yeah,
and this was the thing. So I asked you this question earlier on WhatsApp. Did you watch Japanese with subtitles or did you watch dubbed? And you said dubbed.
I'm
because
dyslexic.
Of your dyslexia.
I watch dubs. Yeah. Now I do need to put a caveat in there. I can do subtitles, but sometimes I need to rewind it, and I'm also so used to watching it, like with V, that we've always just watched the dubbed versions.
Right.
And also it was dubbed by Disney because Buena Vista put cash into it as well. And apparently, according to, I looked this up on Wikipedia, because it's Batman, right? I know we do the who played who, but but he is Howl, and apparently he saw the previous film, and he got his agent to contact him saying, "I'll do any voice you want in a film. I just want to do one."
I mean, I guess this was
so. Yeah,
this would have been during production of Batman Begins. Because Batman Begins came out. Yeah. Batman Begins came out in 2005.
Oh, I really hadn't thought about
so
that.
So if they were dubbing this for release in 2004 or end of 2004, then he would have been filming or had finished filming or was filming Batman Begins at the time.
Yeah. So he's Batman and Birdman in this.
It's Batman and Birdman.
That's kind of cool.
And I suppose so. I mean, it's interesting you say that because my wife's got ADHD like you. And she watches everything with subtitles on. I mean, stuff in English. Okay. Because she finds that processing audio is hard.
Oh, no, I get that.
She always has subtitles turned on at the same time as listening.
Yeah, no, I get that. Also, people's sound mixes now is crap. I always watch new Doctor Who with subtitles, like I'm a 90-year-old man. Because I just can't handle the sound mixes. So, yeah, I get it. It's just sometimes...
Yeah,
I got so used to watching it, but you went hardcore. You went like, we'll have the Japanese version. We'll listen to
I am generally skeptical of. Well, not skeptical. That's not the right word. Dubs don't tend to do it for me. I mean, lip sync is not quite so important, I feel, in Japanese animation. But still, when I did watch a little bit of it in English, which I explained to you before, but I'll explain in a moment. I watched a tiny bit in English, and it just threw me off. I was like, well, these lips aren't matching, you know. So, and I do feel that you lose something with the dub. Though like I say, it feels odd anyway having Japanese voices in an English setting. It's all over the place in that regard. But
yeah,
I felt that I related. Like, some of the American voices annoyed me when I listened to a bit of the American dub, and I was like, I'm glad I made the decision to watch it in Japanese.
Yeah.
But then you have to concentrate all the more solidly on. You can't at any point kind of look away and still hear the dialogue. You have to be kind of reading. So it was quite an effort of concentration to which is why I feel I must have missed a bit, because the big thing at the end where the turnip man turns into the prince and goes, I'm the prince that everybody's been looking for, and I'm like, did we know this?
Well, we did, because we were watching it, and then when the turnip guy turns up at the castle and Howl meets him for the first time, he goes, oh, somebody new for the family. Oh, you've got a strong curse on you as well, haven't you? Like, he always knows everyone's got curses.
Right, okay. Right.
And, yeah, so it's...
But were we ever informed that the reason that they were having a war was because the prince had gone missing? Like that, I wasn't sure whether that piece of information was said at the beginning of the film.
I wasn't 100% either. It might be said. It's not exactly as obvious as it would have been in a Disney film. But if it was a Disney film, it would have been laid out so much so that the audience would have been sat there going, that turnip bloke, he's the prince, isn't he? Yeah, he is. Yeah, because this is kind of... Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, I think whatever narrative issues I have with it are probably
They're not from the translation.
They're from the fact that this is how he makes films, you know?
Yeah.
Because you asked me if I'd seen Spirited Away. I have seen Spirited Away. I couldn't tell you what the plot was. I have no idea what the plot of Spirited Away is. I know that her parents turn into pigs at some point, I think.
Yep.
And there's a bit where she goes on a train ride and there's the dude in the mask. But I genuinely can't tell you what the plot of Spirited Away was.
But do you remember enjoying it? That's the weird thing, because I'm remembering really enjoying this film. The experience of watching this film is deeply enjoyable. But
I enjoyed this a lot more than Spirited Away. But I'm not. Right. I'm saying I'm okay. I enjoyed watching this last night more than I remember watching Spirited Away, however many years away that I watched it.
Fair enough.
Which isn't to say that there were flaws with my experience of watching House Moving Castle last night. So yeah. But anyway, no, you tell me, because I feel I've waffled on quite a lot. Tell me what you love about this film, because I wanna hear it.
Okay. Primarily the design. I just love. There's so much world building, because it's not set at a specific time, because you've got the aeroplanes, which have got weird technology. You've also got magic going on, and I like magic in a semi-realistic situation, and I just like that. The animation's gorgeous. There's one bit near the beginning where Sophie gets turned into the old lady, and she's in front of the mirror. Now, even Disney would have just gone, mirror, there you go. There's 3 planes to this mirror. 1 from the front and 2 from the side, like you would have in like a grandparent's house, on the dressing room, on the dressing table. And all 3 reflections, as well as the original image, are hand-drawn, and the animation is flawless. I know how hard that would be. And that's just a throwaway section of like, yeah, she's in front of a mirror. No, if it was live action, it's an actor in front of a mirror. If it's animation, it's 4 different points of view in the same shot being drawn from the same thing, and she's talking. And it just looks effortless. The whole film is gorgeous. And like, okay, I don't know why the shadow sponges blobby creatures have got straw hats on, but I know it works. Right? And it's just a fabulous experience. I know that culturally speaking, I wouldn't have been able to come to the same conclusions and make it the same way, but that doesn't stop it from being just a glorious thing. Yeah. And when Sophie suddenly starts getting a bit younger, and nobody bothers commenting on it, but the audience, you're there, it's as if, you know that Hitchcock thing, it's like an audience would rather be confused than bored. Well, if this, it's you're working out the narrative, and there are moments where there's narrative exposition, and I'm not even sure it would be the original, because there's a bit where the door turns to, because in the book apparently the door that goes to different places, which is a TARDIS like magic door,
Yeah.
that's on board a house that is already moving. So it's like, now I know it makes more sense from Howl's Moving Castle in the sense of the book, which looks more like a French castle thing than this mechanical marvel. But you can see anyway. So that in the book, it takes, the Black Door takes him to his Welsh childhood home.
Yes.
But in this, you find she actually says in the thing, "Oh, this has taken me back to Howl's childhood," and you're like, "Okay, thanks for telling me, because I wouldn't have figured that out from what was in front of me."
Yes. I mean, that was one of those leaps where I was just like, so how is the door able to do this now?
It's got a time travel. And also I think one of the main things that everyone loves about this is Calcifer. Is the fire demon. Everyone loves the fire demon. And it's Billy Crystal. Because Billy Crystal did go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I turned down Toy Story. I'll do any voices you want. I was an idiot."
Was he up for Toy Story?
Yeah, he turned, I don't know which character he was meant to be, but I know he's on record as saying, "I can't believe I turned down."
Did they go to him for Woody before Tom Hanks?
Well, you would think Woody, but then what about Buzz? I don't know. Would he have played that more straight? I mean,
obviously,
Tim Allen
I'm glad he did
because
I'm glad he did because we then got Mike Wazowski.
Well, Mike Wazowski's just better. He really is. He's a proper rounded, great character.
Yeah.
So, but Mike is a lot more close to Calcifer, but Calcifer's a lot more. And of course, he's Miracle Max as well. So that's a good.
Yes, I mean, obviously, as I said, I listened to it in Japanese, and whoever the actor was, obviously, I'm reading the dialogue in English, but the performance is the Japanese one, and he's just hilarious. And obviously, because a lot of it is the visuals as well, just the way that he, the way that he's able to, emote with fire and the mouth and the eyes, when he's eating the breakfast and when he eats the bug, all that kind of stuff is just delightful.
I'll tell you what this film has over animation from I'm using Disney, but you know what I mean. I mean Disney. I mean the Universal, even the French stuff with the Minions. Although they are a creature of their own doing, and we could talk about Minions for at least an hour. What I'm saying is, in this, you've got absolute moments of silence. There's no music. There's action going on the screen, but there's only a tiny bit of Foley noise, people walking, things like that. There's atmosphere, but you would not get that in another. I can't imagine getting that in a different animated film. It's like they're giving time to breathe, but I know how much work would go into those moments of nothing happening.
Yeah.
And that takes real guts, to be able to put that into a movie. It's 2 hours long. It's like it's not a short creature. So
no, I know. I mean, I've not seen the whole of Akira, but I've seen bits of Akira, and the thing that that felt like a through line was the squishy, blobby men.
Yeah, that's through a lot of Japanese animation across the board.
Like
though.
The sort of amorphous, blobby animation that you kind of associate with Japanese animation.
And there's a time when I could have listed them all. There really was. It's like in the mid to late 90s, I would have been able to go, oh yeah, and now in my head are going, oh, it's the one with the woman who's a robot and there's a tank person, or it's the one where but also, and this is important, when I was at university, they went, let's do anime, right? And the lecturer, who had some teenage sons, was given a VHS by her teenage sons. Now, the film that they made us watch was actually combined episodes of a TV series, and it was the only time in my entire life I've thought about getting up and leaving something.
Wow.
And I've been racking my brains all afternoon to remember what it was called. But there was, and this is not going to narrow it down, Schoolgirls. there was, because animation with Japanese schoolgirls, that's fairly large group anyway.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't that other thing beginning with H that we'll go down that road another time. But what I'm saying is there was teachers being consumed by giant worm monsters that were coming out of bits of them that really were... It wasn't subtext. And and there was just... And you were like, seriously? What do you think we're going to watch? Because we were like, no, we know there's better stuff out there. We've got it at home. We watch it already. This is not good stuff. This is appalling. This is... And then there was just monsters, and then there was a demon that was possessed by another demon that came out of another demon, and you were like, okay, this narrative's making no sense, and it's not the translation, and it's not cultural either. This is dross in any country. This is low quality nonsense. This is going nowhere and has no narrative through it. It was like, ooh, and I was offended for myself, and I do not walk out of stuff because nobody sets out to make something bad. And this was appalling. This put me off. And this is the total opposite of that. It looks so good. So anyway, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm enthusing, but I'm not actually saying anything.
It's good, but I think just as we've talked about this before. You've alluded to it, but just the quality of the animation is just great in these films. And you if you've ever been an animator, which obviously we have, you watch these films with an eye to the craftsmanship, and you're like, I know how much effort and time has gone into this, how many people must be working on it, or how much time has been put into it. You know, it's like more time, fewer people, or more people if you want to get it done faster. But the level of artistry, you know,
that's how I felt when I saw the first new Spider-Man film, the Miles Morales one.
Right.
I was basically sat in the cinema with my mouth on the floor, going, "Oh my God, this is incredible!"
Yeah.
So
I think the bits where characters move in 3-dimensional space in a 2D animation are just like that. There's the bit with the carriage that was being. What do you call those carriages that are held by people and moved along?
That's actually on as we speak now. I know the one.
Whatever those are called.
For it. Yeah,
there is a word for it. But just the fact that they go, right, we're going to turn it round 380 degrees and walk it off in the other direction, which means they have to do the 3-dimensional kind of move.
Mm-hmm.
It's just exceptional.
Here's something, right? In that scene, not the Wicked Witch of the West, the Witch of the Wastes is inside that carriage. Now, when you're drawing, one of the things you really need to do is keep proportions correct. But her proportions aren't real. So everybody else in the scene has to look right. And she's constantly moving because she's so big and she's squeezed herself into her clothes. Her face is too big and then it's too small. And then it's because it's in motion. But again, that's an incredibly brave thing to do. You have to know your art so well to be able to go, we'll just make her face massive. Because anybody else would be like, whoa, you've done that wrong. No, you haven't. We're with you. We know how good it is. And, So,
because that was one of the things that we were taught was with the squash and the stretch. When you start, you're like, this thing can't change.
It can't mass.
It can't change its volume or mass.
Its apparent its apparent volume must remain the same in order to give that level of reality.
Yeah, and this sort of breaks those rules because it's dealing with a sort of slightly fantastical realm.
But in order for it to break the rules, all the rest of the rules have to be in perfect harmony in that scene.
It's like she's still obeying. I mean, there's a real sense of gravity when they're ascending the stairs together. You know, obviously Sophie's carrying the dog and the witch is kind of going up, and there's just a real sense of weight, which is obviously one of those things that you have to get right in drawn animation because it doesn't exist unless you put it there. And obviously when you're working with a puppet, you've got the actual weight of a puppet, but with drawn stuff, you're like, no, you have to put all that in.
That's why I always preferred the puppetry, because you just did it. But here's the thing: did you have to? We were using film camera. Did you at any point use a movie camera, like with Bolex and stuff? Because have you ever added a shadow? Because we were taught to do shadows separately, roll the film back, put the shadows in with a percentage exposure so that they were slightly translucent.
I
So you have to
did
draw
not
the
have a camera
shadows
that
in
was
separately.
that complicated.
Right. And on a film like this, the shadows are going up some stairs, so the light bends. And you're like, yeah, we just did that. It was shadows. Now people will just go, now I'm on a computer, put some shadows at the feet. Thanks very much. And you're like, I know computers are just a tool, right? But the sheer craftsmanship, and I know that in this, they did everything hand-drawn, then they scanned them into a computer and had to do the recolor correction and everything, which is great, because it's that mid-2000s crossover before everyone just goes, sod it, let's just draw on a computer.
Yeah.
So that's just incredible. But it's got its flaws, and its flaws are the narrative, but like I said, but they're only if you look at it too close.
Well, I think that was the thing. I was watching it and I was trying to be as charitable as possible towards it and go, you know, this is a different culture. This is an adaptation of a book. I read that in part it's a reaction to the Iraq War, that Miyazaki was really pissed off at the Iraq War, and so he wanted to make an anti-war film.
But to be fair, no one does mass destruction in movies like the Japanese.
Well,
they've got it. I know everyone was like, oh, culturally it's because of, you know, the atomic weapons that were used on them. But even then, even their folklore and everything, because they're on the Pacific Rim, they're used to mass destruction through tsunami and earthquakes and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's part of their culture much more than a country that isn't used to that as a historic thing.
I appreciated the fact that, like, it didn't shy away from that, you know, because you feel that kind of a more Western movie may well have kind of built towards stopping that final blitz, as it were.
Yeah.
Whereas in this film, it just sort of happens. It's like, oh, they're bombing the town now. Okay, the war has escalated to a point, and it's almost kind of incidental. It's almost kind of incidental to what's going on with Sophie and Howl. I guess the thing that really didn't work for me about the film was the romantic relationship between Sophie and Howl.
Yeah.
I didn't really get their romance.
Apparently that's quite different from the book, because there's business with her sister and they've changed bodies and there's a whole extra storyline going on. And Howl himself is a lot more vain. That's why he doesn't like her tidying the room, because he's a beautifying product. Let's put it that way. All over the place. You know, it's one of those things. So that's different. But I suppose that's more something that works in a book more better.
What else would you like to say about Howl's Moving Castle, Michael?
Well, just if you've not seen it out there, I'd give it a go, because it's in a lot of people's top tens.
What, of animated films or films in general?
No, films in general.
Okay.
It's like and if you're a steampunk fan, give it a go. If you if you're fed up to the back teeth of being forced to watch Disney with your little kids, give this a go, because it'll just expand the horizons, give them something else to fixate on as well. And let's face it, everyone's going to love Calcifer. Apparently, Diane Wynne-Jones has a fake fireplace in her house with a Calcifer from this movie in it, because she likes this movie. She actually is on record as saying she likes this movie more than she likes the book. So, you know what? That is a good thing.
Interesting.
Apparently the next film that came out didn't fare so well with the author, because that was one of the Ursula, was it Ursula? It was one of the dragon books, the Pern books.
Right.
And I don't think that was as accepted.
I mean, I hadn't even thought about the fact, because obviously she's still alive, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I
mean, it was written in 86, so yeah.
Yeah. And I read that the third book in the series came out in like 2008.
Well, that's cool.
So she wrote another one in like 1990, and then another one in like 2008. So after this film came out, she wrote a third book in the trilogy. So, you know.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, so I think I would give it a qualified like from me. I'm not, and I think like I said, that where I disconnect from it is that the narrative wasn't as clear as I would have liked. But I recognise that's a problem with, well, not a problem. That's just me and films. I like things to be a bit more straightforward narratively.
Well, apparently one critic said it was it's a film made as if it's fan fiction for someone who's read the book, and they've taken the characters and gone in a different direction all of their own, and that's all right.
Yeah, and obviously the reaction that I read, as you alluded to earlier, the reaction that I read online was from somebody saying that they'd taken their daughter to see it, who was 14 and loved the book, and she hated it. Yeah, and I can imagine it going. I mean, any adaptation of a book can go that way. If it's a book that you've loved and then you see it, I mean, I will always bang on about the fact that I read most of Doctor Who before I watched it, and in some
which
of those
makes
cases,
you one of the few individuals in the world like that. But that's
good.
It
means that there were times when the show itself disappointed me by not living up to the standards of the book. Yeah. Which was obviously the book came second in those instances.
Well, to be fair, not always, because I was reading the target novelizations of stuff that weren't on VHS while I was growing up.
Yes.
I remember taking Tomb of the Cybermen with me on the French school trip, so I get that.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously that was one of those ones that didn't exist anymore.
Well, exactly, yeah.
At the time, and then obviously it was found. Yeah. I think the only one that I'm aware of where the book came out first was The Five Doctors. So we've not found any Doctor Who actors because obviously the original was Japanese and the dub didn't involve any Doctor Who actors as far as I'm aware. So the film that my wife has picked for us to watch, and I don't know whether you all enjoy it. I don't know whether any of our audience will enjoy it.
I want to know.
Is Austenland.
I have no idea. I'm assuming it's Jane Austen Land.
Well, so Austenland is you'll see when you watch it, but it's a film set in a world where there is a Jane Austen reality experience where you can go and stay in a house, and depending on how much you've paid, depends on kind of what level of character you play.
Like Westworld without the robots.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's like Westworld without the robots, and there are actors who are employed to play Austen-like characters, and the person who organises it all is kind of trying to make the plot play out in a particular way. And our heroine is somebody who is an American who has a limited budget, so she's kind of paid for the sort of lower level, and it's one of those films where it's you'll see, but it's to do with like what's real and what's fake, and it's quite funny.
There's no problem.
As far as I'm aware, there is. I'm just looking at the cast list. There's at least one Doctor Who actor to spot. There's also a Battlestar Galactica actor to spot as well.
Ooh, is that new or old?
New.
Ooh, see,
so I will send you that on the internet once I've made a copy of it, and we can talk about that next month.
Excellent.
In which will be November's episode. And then in December, your wife gets to pick something.
Oh, she's not changed.
Okay, I look for...
She came out one thing, that's it, done. That was it, straight off.
Well, I look forward to finding out what hers is at the end of next time. But thank you for bringing Howl's Moving Castle. I did enjoy watching it. It wasn't something that I would have necessarily picked myself. So I always appreciate these chances to kind of widen my...
No, ditto. That's what this is about.
Vocabulary. And yeah, let's see how you get on with Austenland next month.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, we always finish the same way, don't we? So after you.
I will say goodbye, and I will leave the final word as ever to Michael.
Be seeing you.